Om Namo Narayana, welcome back. Today we are reading chapter 27, Understanding Material Nature. I'm guessing already this is going to be a tough chapter because the last one, actually maybe the last couple, were really intense, speaking about devotional nature, reality, us as people, the Lords which are all around us. I mean, there's so much here. Just very, very detailed. So I'm guessing this is going to be detailed too. So essentially, please study this on your own. And more importantly, if you get confused, don't stress it. Just keep reading, keep studying, whatever. Don't stress it. Here we go. Lord Vishnu, as Kapila Muni said. When the living entity is thus unaffected by the modes of material nature, because he is unchanging and does not claim proprietorship, he remains apart from the reactions of the modes, although abiding in a material body, just as the sun remains aloof from its reflection on water. When the soul is under the spell of material nature and the false ego, identifying his body as the self, he becomes absorbed in material activities, and by the influence of false ego, he thinks that he is the proprietor of everything. The conditioned soul, therefore, transmigrates into different species of life, higher and lower, because of his association with the modes of material nature. Unless he is relieved of material activities, he has to accept this position because of his faulty work. Actually, a living entity is transcendental to material nature, but because of his mentality of lording it over material nature, his material existential condition does not cease. And just as in a dream, he is affected by all sorts of disadvantages. It is the duty of every conditioned soul to engage his polluted consciousness, which is now attached to material enjoyment, in a very serious devotional service with detachment. Thus his mind and consciousness will be under full control. One has to become faithful by practicing the controlling process of the yoga system and must elevate himself to the platform of unalloyed devotional service by chanting and hearing about me. In executing devotional service, one is to see every living entity equally, without enmity towards anyone, yet without intimate connections with anyone. One has to observe celibacy, be grave, and execute his eternal activities, offering the results to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For his income, a devotee should be satisfied with what he earns without great difficulty. He should not eat more than what is necessary. He should live in a secluded place and always be thoughtful, peaceful, friendly, compassionate, and self-realized. One's seeing power should be increased through knowledge of spirit and matter, and one should not unnecessarily identify himself with the body and thus become attracted by bodily relationships. One should be situated in the transcendental position beyond the stages of material consciousness and should be aloof from all other conceptions of life. Thus, realizing freedom from false ego, one should see his own self just as he sees the sun in the sky. A liberated soul realizes the absolute personality of Godhead, who is transcendental and who is manifest as a reflection even in the false ego. He is the support of the material cause, and he enters into everything. He is absolute, one without a second, and he is the eyes of the illusory energy. The presence of the Supreme Lord can be realized, just as the sun is realized first as a reflection on water, and again as a second reflection on the wall of a room, although the sun itself is situated in the sky. The self-realized soul is thus reflected first in the threefold ego, and then in the body, senses, and mind. Although a devotee appears to be merged in the five material elements, the objects of material enjoyment, the material senses, and the material mind and intelligence, he is understood to be awake and to be freed from the false ego. The living entity can vividly feel his existence as the seer, but because of the disappearance of the ego during the state of deep sleep, he falsely takes himself to be lost, like a man who has lost his fortune and feels distressed, thinking himself to be lost. When by mature understanding one can realize his individuality, when the situation he accepts under false ego becomes manifest to him. Sri Devahuti then inquired, "My dear Brahmana, does material nature ever give release to the spirit soul? Since one is attracted to the other eternally, how is their separation impossible. As there is no separate existence of the earth and its aroma, or of water and its taste, there cannot be any separate existence of intelligence and consciousness. Hence, even though he is the passive performer in all activities, how can there be freedom for the soul as long as material nature acts upon him and binds him? Even if the great fear of bondage is avoided by mental speculation and inquiry into the fundamental principles, it may still appear again, since its cause has not ceased. Lord Vishnu replied, one can get liberation by seriously discharging devotional service unto me, and thereby hearing for a long time about me or from me. By thus executing one's prescribed duties, there will be no reaction, and one will be freed from the contamination of matter. This devotional service has to be strongly performed in perfect knowledge and with transcendental vision. One must be strongly renounced and must engage in austerity and perform mystic yoga in order to be firmly fixed in self-absorption. The influence of material nature has covered the living entity, and thus it is if the living entity were always in a blazing fire. But by the process of seriously discharging devotional service, this influence can be removed, just as the wooden sticks which cause a fire are themselves consumed by it. By discovering the faultiness of his desiring to lord over material nature, and by therefore giving it up, the living entity becomes independent and stands in his own glory. In the dreaming state, one's consciousness is almost covered, and one sees many inauspicious things, but when he is awakened and fully conscious, such inauspicious things cannot bewilder him. The influence of material nature cannot harm an enlightened soul, even though he engages in material activities, because he knows the truth of the Absolute, and his mind is fixed on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When a person thus engages in devotional service and self-realization for many, many years and births, he becomes completely reluctant to enjoy any one of the material planets, even up to the highest planet, which is known as Brahmaloka. He becomes fully developed in consciousness. My devotee actually becomes self-realized by my unlimited, causeless mercy, and thus, when freed from all doubts, he steadily progresses toward his destined abode, which is under the protection of my spiritual energy of unadulterated bliss. That is the ultimate perfectional goal of the living entity. After giving up the present material body, the mystic devotee goes to that transcendental abode and never comes back. When a perfect yogi's attention is no longer attracted to the byproducts of mystic powers, which are manifestations of the external energy, his progress towards me becomes unlimited, and thus the power of death cannot overcome him. And thus ends this chapter. It's a great question Devahuti asked. You separate yourself from all this material nature, but the material world is still here and is still acting on you no matter what you do. And the answer is, you are in the Lord. You have put yourself into the manifestation securely, strongly, and basically you can't be taken out of it if you're there. I was reading this, I was thinking about a guru. I didn't know this guru once, but I had seen him on YouTube and I'd seen him online, and he was living in New York. No, it's not Shisham Noi. It's another teacher who's not so well known, and I actually don't even remember the name he currently goes by right now. And it doesn't matter anyways, because there was a student of his who had blogged on his website, or who had done an interview on him or something like that. I don't know. This was well over 10 years ago. And I just remember the student saying, I hope I never lose enlightenment. You gave me enlightenment, Guru, and I hope I never lose it. And I always thought that was a little strange. Like, my understanding of enlightenment is you can't lose it. Buddha wasn't enlightened one day and the next day like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, don't follow me. It doesn't work like that. Once you have it, you have it. And I've always thought, like, wait a minute. If this person thinks they're going to lose enlightenment, that means they're probably not enlightened in the first place. And I've always had this thought in the back of my head, and, people say all the time, and I've heard many people say, oh, I'm enlightened. I'm enlightened. I can name at least 3 people who've told that to me. I don't know if they are or not. It's like, and they're almost the opposite. They're almost like, yeah, I'm totally enlightened, so just screw you. This person's like, oh, I might lose it. Either one of them makes me feel funny. But this chapter, this says it. You can't break, you can't lose, you can't whatever of the enlightenment if you're firmly established in the Lord and in your devotional service. So this person who was afraid of losing enlightenment, I have to ask, were they firmly established? If they were afraid of losing something you can't lose, were they firmly in the Lord? Maybe they were with their guru, maybe they were really into this guru, but had they gone beyond the guru, because the guru is not the end result. The guru is just like a bridge that gets you to God. You don't want to drive down the highway, you go through this bridge, and you're stuck in the bridge, because cars will come at you and hit you. No, you want to keep going, and a lot of people stop at the guru. So maybe that's what this person was, and here it is in this text. That's what it says. You have to be established. As for the others who say, oh yeah, I'm enlightened, look at me, I just wonder if they weren't established either, and thus they're boasting about maybe something. It's the same thing. I don't think either one of them are. But this is the key. You have to be established. Am I established? Are you established? I don't know. But I would like to think that if you're watching this video, you're trying to find that place. Or at least if you haven't found it, you're not worried, because it's, if you lose it, if you don't lose it, whatever, it's a journey. You know how to find it again. You know how to find it. You won't lose it permanently. So this woman who thought she was going to lose enlightenment if she ever left her guru, well, the guru doesn't matter. That's not where you find enlightenment. So, anyways, just a random thought, random story from my past, and yeah, your comments, your thoughts, whatever, and thank you for joining me in this video. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare.